come here. We'd like you to come out to the bee archery. We're going to examine the bees, so come along with us.
I just want to show it to y'all, so if you see it all over your vehicles or what. And the predominant fly zone here is to the south. Which way is the south? Y'all getting close.
Oh, it's behind.
Okay.
My house is, as the compass says, due north, due south. There's a reason I said it like that. Do y'all know why? Old folks used to do their houses like that. Sun in the morning on the breakfast kitchen area, sun in the bedrooms and living room in the evening. That's why my house sits at an odd angle. But their fly zone, because there's a swampy area that way, and this time of year they still get nectar and everything, whereas, you know, we're dry, so they're not getting it in other places, so major fly zone. Plus during the spring, there's an average of 150 hives here on the place. I don't know. Stuff it in. I like to get all my ends in. I just, you know, you can leave the straw hanging out if you like, whatever you like, but I try to tuck it in just so I can close it up good. I just keep working it until I feel like I have a good smoke. And you see I got my fingers on it, so that means you got cool smoke. You don't want hot smoke. As it burns down though, as your smoker burns down, it will get a little bit hotter. And you know, you'll see in this, you can see the pine straw, it's got creosote built up in it, which it ain't no big deal, but I mean, you can clean it out. Of course, my smoker, it's old and I like it, and I just hadn't started using the new one. But anyway, so put your top on there, and you're good to go.
And the other thing is, if you see these little holes, hive beetles love to get in those things, and the bees can't get to them. And it's just, I just don't, and they're hard to, the wood's easier for me to grip. If you go to the middle and try to pull that frame out, if you don't pull it out perfectly straight, or if it has some of that burr comb like this on the side, you could roll or kill a queen. And the see thing about it is, this is what I was talking about, that burr comb was on the side. So what that did, it caused that.
Wow.
You see how that is? So this, when you go in your hives, that's sort of what you're looking for. So you can straighten that stuff out before. And we've got brood, so we're in good shape.
That's a good one right there.
So what we're looking for, I'm gonna pass this around, and I'm just trying to make sure I don't have a queen on here because I don't want to drop her. When you want to do your inspection, I'm going to see if I can find one that's got open brood, because they're plugging this and there's no open brood. But when you do your frame inspections, if you get the sun behind your back and you hold the frame from the top, and if you got that sun behind your back like this, you can looking down, the cells have a slight angle to the top. And if you look like this and you've got the sun over your shoulder, you can see right down the bottom of those cells. I'm going to pass this around so that you'll see what I'm talking about when you do that. The other thing is, what you want to look for when you do your inspections. I mean, you don't go in a hive unless you have a reason. And whatever our reasons, you want to make sure they have enough room because we're getting towards the tail end of the honey flow. But what you're doing this time of year is making sure they have, and this one you can see it's got ample resources. You see all that capped honey at the top?
Nice.
You've got beautiful, now I've got some open larvae on this one. So what you're doing on your inspection, you want to make sure that you have fresh larvae and fresh eggs. You don't have to see the queen, but if you have fresh larvae that's not been capped and eggs, you know that there's a queen in this hive. So you don't have to really go any further. The only time I look for a queen is I'm going to do something with her. Either I'm going to pinch her head off because she's a bad queen, or you want to paint her. If she's an unmarked queen, you want to mark her so that you know the age of her age. Marking your queens is a good management tool. You don't have to have marked queens, but what it is, if you have a marked queen, you actually know her age. And the only way you're going to know a queen's age, you can't tell it by looking at them. But if you paint them for that year's color, you can know that queen came from this year. Now this frame, we have some open larvae. So we know this, we know within the last 7 days, this queen has actually laid eggs in here. And what I want to go ahead and pass this one around. And the reason when I'm going to pass this one, let me get those. On the peripherals, if you look up here on these edges right here, right up under the honey, all this is capped. But right here you have open larvae. Got it. And the reason I want you to look at that open larvae, when you look at that larvae, you want to check for any kind of disease or virus issues. When I'm looking at that particular frame, the larvae I'm looking at, it's like a nice white new bee jacket. It's nice and pearly white. If that larvae is all colored, you've got disease issues. It could be a virus issue. It could be a brood issue, as far as like there's two diseases that we really worry about. European foul brood is a stress disease, so we don't really worry about that one. So American foul brood, as an apiary inspector, that's the only one we worry about. And American foul brood has different characteristics. But when we look at the cappings on that brood frame, we can see it's nice and healthy because those cappings are outward. They're pushing, they're not sunken in, they're not perforated. So that's good healthy larvae that we're looking at. Do we have any questions on that? Or?
Can you tell the difference in the color, like if it's going to be American foul brood or European foul brood based on
They're
the color?
very similar because the larvae is dying. It starts turning yellow and brown because and it just basically melts down to a goo. And with American foul brood, what it'll do is, as it dries out, as that larvae of pupa dries out, you actually, because it's a spore disease. In other words, it reproduces by spores. So you'll get this little dry scale in the bottom of the cell because it'll sink to the bottom. So you get this little scale. American foul brood has what they call a scale, and that scale, just in one cell, will be full of millions of spores. That's why we worry about American foul brood, because there's no cure for it.
Yeah.
And if we find American foul brood now, it's you dig a hole and you burn the hive.
Destroy the whole thing.
We used to be able to fumigate, but we cannot get the chemical. So that's where we are with American foul brood. But European is a stress disease. Now, American foul brood, not only do you have the perforated sunken in cappings, you'll actually have, if you take what we call a toothpick test, you take a toothpick and you stir around that larvae, the one that's not dried out, and it'll string out like bubble gum. So, and it's really stringing, and it's like it just sticks together, so you can string it. Where European, it's a very slight no string because it's just different. I mean, but this is a good looking hive of bees. I mean, as far as she's doing a good job, and we don't have any mite issues.
John, how can you tell there's no mites in there?
Well, I'm not. And the thing about it is, when you do your inspections, I don't think about it a lot because I do it so much. But when I take a frame of bees, when I'm looking at those bees on the frame, I'm looking for issues with those particular bees. Now, when you look at this particular frame, Russell asked me, I'm sorry, say again, so I lost my train of thought, put those back
You
in.
were saying that you don't see any
Okay.
mites in there. So
I
how do you
don't,
tell
it's
without
not
doing
that I
the
don't
test?
see mites. What I don't, I'm looking for indicators. of
Indicators.
mites.
Okay.
Bad
So
wings.
the first thing is I look at the larvae. I got nice white larvae, which doesn't mean you don't have mites, but I'm not seeing the virus issues are actually popping up. Because what happens is the mite loads go higher, your virus issues are doing this, they're coming out right behind them. And once you get a high virus load, it takes a couple brood cycles after you actually get the mites under control to get that cured. So what I'm looking for, I don't see any deformed wings. You know, when I look at this young bee that's hatching out, I mean, she looks healthy. I mean, I'm looking at the individual bees. I'm not seeing K-wing or some of the other, virus indicators that you see on the bees themselves. And because a lot of times when you see the bees, you'll actually see some of them doing like paralysis stuff. A lot of times you'll see them on the entrance board, and this is because this doesn't have a real long entrance, it's hard to tell. But you'll see the bees like dying or going around in circles. But I'm not seeing, everything on the frame is like normal behavior. I don't see any deformed wings. I don't see any K-wing. And that's sort of, a quick glance. Now, this is not really what you want to do when you do a mite test. You still want to look at this frame. You want to make sure the queen's not on here. And it's good to double check. Because you don't want to drop a queen in alcohol. Do me a favor. If you can just hold that right there. Got it. Thank you. And I'm gonna do
And you're
what I'm
gonna
gonna do.
switch those two frames because they went back in.
Pardon?
opposite. The two frames because I went around.
Okay.
So if you want to put them in, I don't know. I always try to put them back in like we took them out. So.
There's a couple ways you can do your mite checks. Now I'm going to show you that what I do because it's just easier for me and quicker. You can take a tub, you get a little small plastic tub, and you take a half cup measuring cup. And what you would do, you would take this frame, make sure the queen's not on it, and you would take that frame and just bump it on the end so the bees actually fall in the tub. And what's going to happen is the field bees will fly up, but the nurse bees that are actually tending the larvae on that frame, they're going to stay in the tub. And you take that measuring cup, and you just get the very top of that half cup.
Bless you.
And then you can either use this or one of the other mite things, because there's a couple different varieties. They have a square one that Frankie's got. But what it is, you take that half a cup of bees. The important thing is half a cup of bees is approximately 300 bees. And you don't have to worry about being 290 or 310, but you want to get it close. You don't want to overthink this because you're just getting a general idea of where your mite points are. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of cheat because this little cup and these Varroa testers, they've got two little lines on the inside of the cup. The bottom line's 200 bees, the top line's 300. And what I can do is what I do, I sort of go work for speed because if I have to do a lot of these, anything that makes it a little bit where I can do it a little bit quicker. And normally what I'll do is take this, and you don't want to ever take alcohol over your hive. Because you spill alcohol, you're going to kill every bee that you pour that alcohol on. But what I can do,
Just any alcohol, John? Sorry to interrupt.
Pardon?
Any isopropyl? No.
just regular
don't overthink it.
isopropyl alcohol.
Got it. Okay.
Save the good stuff to drink. So.
All right.
But all you want to do, I'm not gently pushing it across the bees. And if you can see,
On in.
see how they just tumble in? And once I get it up to that little line in there, that's all I have to do. And the thing is, you know, I'm sacrificing 300 bees, but the thing about it is, that little half cup of bees I can hold in the palm of my hand. Now I'm gonna go ahead and shut this up, because also in your inspections, you know, we spend a lot of time with this hive open, and because there's a little bit of nectar flow on still, the bees are still pretty happy. But you don't, as we get through into the dearth, you want to make these inspections. You want to go in there and get what you're doing done, and get out of it. And this is just a John thing. I like to mash the honey so they can clean it up. But is there any questions about how we just did this? And all I'm going to do, I like to let it sit for a minute or so. And all I'm doing, you don't want to make a milkshake. If you start doing this, and these things are notorious about leaking a little bit of alcohol. First thing you're going to splatter alcohol.
Dripping now, John.
And the thing about it is, you don't have to make a martini. So all this, just little gentle swirling is all you want to do, because if you see the perforations in the cup, the bees are in there, and all you want to do is shake the mites loose off of them so it goes to the bottom. And you see how these, like I said, they're bad about leaking. That's the only thing I don't like about these. But just by doing the gentle swirl, that's all you have to do. And you can just do that for a few minutes. It really doesn't take too long. But a lot of times, I'll let it sit for just a minute or two on the hive and go to my next inspection.
After you've swirled, John, you'll let it sit also?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, and the thing is, I know that these bees were treated not too long ago before the honey flow. And I don't really expect to see a mites in these particular hives. Now, I did a field day last Saturday, and either there was a treatment failure, and I had a cup full. The whole cup, bottom of this cup, was covered in mites. And it's so important, because if you don't control your mites, your bees are not going to live. The reason we lose our bees is it's in the high 90 percentile that it's a mite issue. And the thing is, the mites are in the environment, they're in these hives, and even for miticides, you never get rid of 100% of the mites. And the thing about it is, everybody will say, well, I don't see mites. Well, if I open a hive and I'm actually seeing mites on the bees, that hive is pretty much dead but doesn't know it yet. Because the virus loads are going to be so high. Sometimes you can do a Hail Mary with like a Formic Pro or something, and you can save them. But they have to have enough time to get a couple of brood cycles, probably 2.5 brood cycles, to pull out the virus loads. And they're so weak, they're susceptible to the other pests, like wax moths and stuff. Because wax moths don't kill hives, but they take care of weak hives or dying hives. So when I look in here, I'm seeing nothing. So what I've got is a 0 mite. And that's not saying that 100% there's no mites in this hive. It's just saying I didn't detect any. But if I do a mite test and I'm not detecting any, that's telling me that the mite load in here is so low, I'm not detecting it. So that hive is good to go for a while. And of course, what I would recommend towards the end of summer, you want to do a mite test, because most time around here you can get by with 2 mite. And this is not, I mean, it's sort of a rule of thumb, but it's not 100%. Most times you're going to have to treat in March, because the bees that made it through the winter, as soon as they start that brood cycle in January off the maple, the population of bees is doing this. So guess what? What are the mites doing? The mites are doing the same thing, because they're raising bees, they're raising mites, because the mites are raised in the brood. So it's just that you get that going up. So if you don't do that early March, right before the honey flow mite treatment, that mites are just going like this. But if you do that mite treatment, and usually early March, and you can test to make sure you need to, you can drop that load way low, and it gets them through the honey flow and through. And what's going to happen now, we're sort of in a transition. We're getting towards the tail end of the honey flow. If those of y'all have established hives, you've probably noticed that they're not bringing as much in. The drought sort of hurt us and slowed down. This recent rain might have helped us a little bit, because on good years, our honey flow can go to the end of this month. But like last year, it cut off in the middle of the month, because we had that drought last year. And we had early rain last year, but this year we didn't have all that rain early. So we've been pretty much in a rain deficit. Well, guess what? That rain deficit affects all these trees and our nectar sources. So the honey flow was really booming early this year. It was really doing good, but then it got so dry, it really sort of just started taking off. And there's only a few trees that are producing nectar. Down in this area, if you're lucky enough to be around some black gum, and I'm not talking about sweet gum trees, black gum that grows in the wet areas, and it'll grow up on the hills too, and a lot of the white gum. It's hard to find those places because of the development, because the house building down here, and the timbering also, because when they timber, they cut a lot of those trees, and those trees take many years to actually mature enough where they're actually producing flowers. So, but if you're lucky enough to have a good location, the black gum is still in bloom right now, and actually some of the white gum. But that's just sort of where we are in that transition. And what you're going to see is these hives, if you were lucky enough to make a good honey crop, probably the 1st of June, and once this honey flow gets over, everything that's capped. Now, y'all noticed in this hive when we were looking at those frames, and I'm going to pop this one open to see what's going on. But what you're looking for, if you're going to take honey, it's still going.
You got it, man. You got it.
Like I said, you don't need to you don't want to over smoke them, because you'll tend to see if you over smoke the bees, it really doesn't do any good. Just sort of agitate them. But when the honey flow is coming on, when you open a box up, this is the kind of stuff you're going to see. When they ran out of space, they put a little bit of this burr comb up here, and
Wow.
now, I didn't plan
Beautiful.
this. This is what I was wanting to show you. With the only problem on this frame, you've got a few drone cells right here, which those are probably going to be coming out here real soon. But what you're looking for, when you extract honey, this is what you're looking for. If you notice, almost everything on here, it's all capped. There's a couple cells right here at the bottom that aren't, and maybe there's a few here that they're still filling. But what you want to do before you extract your honey, this is what you're looking for. See this beautiful capped honey? That's what you want to extract. because if you get too much of these unopened cells, if your moisture content is over 18% when you extract your honey, it's going to ferment. So you want to make sure you're extracting capped honey this right, because now it's very little here, but you don't want the uncapped honey or nectar because it's got to be dried out. Now, if this was like the first week in June and I pulled this frame out, chances are they already had the enzymes in this little bit of nectar, but the honey flow had stopped, and they quit generating the wax to cap it with. Because everybody will call me in June and say, I'm trying to take honey, but it's uncapped. What do I do with it? And that's a whole nother, there's a couple ways you can deal with it and play with it, but the whole thing is, the point I'm trying to make is you don't want to extract uncapped nectar, because the capped honey is what you're looking for. And like I said, and this frame will be fine once this little bit of drone brood comes out. Now, do y'all know why I can tell that's drone brood? Anybody?
Shape of the cell.
Big stem.
Sticks up.
John, could you just scrape them off if you wanted to?
You could, but the thing about it is, you see, it's not even at the purple eye stage yet. It won't be long, but now you could take your capping scratcher, Russell, and pop that out just like that. If you took a capping scratcher and lifted it, and this is something else, a lot of people would do an easy, a visual mite check, because the mites prefer drones, but they will raise just as well in workers. But a lot of people will take a capping scratcher, and when they have drones like this, and what they'll do is they'll take a capping scratcher, which is what everybody know what I'm talking about, a capping scratcher? With those little sharp teeth, you can lift it right under these and lift out those drone larvae really easier than I can with a hive tool or even a toothpick. But what I'm doing is, if y'all will look at that, there's no mites on it. If there was mites in there raising in that cell, you would see mites on that pupae. And those mites are really easy to see because they're like a little seed tick. They're not little light brown, mite. But that's what you want to look for when you're getting ready to extract honey. And hopefully, everybody that's got established hives, that's what you've got. And the other thing is, now these hives are getting ready to go north. These bees right here are going to be going up upstate New York. And what will happen is their honey flow hadn't even started.
Wow.
So, because basically, this is what I want to. This is the hive I'd want to go into winter. And the reason I would, if I was using this hive for my honey producing hive, those bees have to have resources to winter over. And and the bad thing about our area, we're getting ready to go into a summer dearth. And with the summer dearth, what happens is there's nothing out there for the bees to bring in. So they're having to live on what they've stored now. And and of course our area, we have notorious really bad summer dearths. And what you can do, and say if you had been lucky enough and had hives like this a month ago, chances are you'd have a couple supers of honey. Because these hives have been manipulated and split to make more hives go for the honey flow up in New York. So that's the way they've been managed. And these will do well up there. So, but he's just starting his cycle up there. Ours is pretty much over with. But like I said, this hive right now, if you had this right now going into summer, chances are they're going to eat some of this food during the summertime. But at the end of summer, if you went in there and when you're checking those frames and they're dried out and there's no capped nectar in there, you can feed them to get them through the winter. So what we want to do now is, you're not looking at where this hive is now. You want to be looking at where this is hive in a month or 2 months from now. Because you've got, with keeping bees, you're always looking forward. Because you're with honeybees, this fall is the start of your bee cycle for next year. If you have mite issues at the end of summer, which most of us will have, and you don't do the mite treatments to get them ready to go into winter with the bees that are actually have healthy fat bodies, because what will happen is late August, early September, they're raising the bees for the winter. And those bees, your winter bees, are physiologically different from these summer bees. These summer bees, once they start going out that front door foraging, they don't live about 6 weeks. The winter bees, they have to live longer, because that's what's going to start the cycle off next January when the maple starts blooming, or early February. And if they don't have healthy fat bodies, because their fat bodies are sort of like our liver, and it helps process it. And the mites are feeding on the hemolymph, which is their version of blood, and also the fat bodies. And if they don't have healthy fat bodies, those bees are not going to live over the winter and have that longevity it takes for them to get that new cycle started off next spring. So, any questions? This is a quiet crowd.
We're listening.
Awesome, John. Love the information.
Yeah, it's good.
But I appreciate y'all's time. And but the thing about it is, it's really important is, if you take away anything from this, when you pull that frame out of your hive, what are you looking at? You want to make sure there's plenty of carbohydrates, which is that honey, this cap. You want to make sure. Now, there was one thing I didn't see in those frames, and I'm sure there's probably some in the bottom box, is bee bread. The pollen that they're storing, they have to have pollen in that bee bread that they store, so they can't raise brood without that protein. So the whole problem is, last summer, it's probably one of the first times that I can remember, because of how bad the dearth was last summer. I had a beekeeper over at Lake Waccamaw, which is not very far from here. And he called me and he said, this was the end of summer, early fall, and he said, I've lost half of my queens. And I said, well, why do you think you've lost half your queens? He had a dozen hives, and there was not any brood in any of those 12 hives. And this is an area that there's woods around, and you would think there's plenty of forage for them. But what happened over there last year with that drought, all the little weeds and stuff that we don't pay any attention to, they get these bees through the summer, they dried out. And on these sandy soils, you get that kind of dryness, those little plants just die. They're not producing any nectar, and it's not that they produce surplus nectar, but they produce small amounts. It sort of helps the bees get through the summer. And they're producing pollen to make their seeds. So what happened is, it was dry over there, and if any of y'all ever go to Lake Waccamaw, it's in a low wet area, just like a lot of our area down here. Well, guess what? All the ditches were dried out. And what I was doing, I was checking for hornet traps, because I have one over at Lake Waccamaw. And I used to hunt over there for 20 years. And I mean, those ditches usually stay full of water over there, because it's low, swampy land. Well, everything was dried out. And the goldenrod that was getting ready to start blooming, it actually turned brown before it got frosted on, because it just dried out. So the point is, when you check those brood frames down your brood nest, you want to make sure there's pollen in there, or that stored bee bread, because if they out that bee bread, they cannot raise brood. My beekeeper over there at Lake Waccamaw, what he had to do, because there was no pollen for the bees to raise with, he actually had to get pollen supplement, and he put dry pollen supplement out. And a week and a half later, when I got over there to check his bees, lo and behold, he had little patches of brood the size of my palm of my hand already started, and they were storing that artificial pollen in the comb. And he got all 12 of those hives through the winter. And when I went and did his inspection this spring, he was already up to 17. But he didn't lose one hive, but he knew what to look for. Because when I asked him if there was any bee bread, he said no. And I had a hard time believing that was like no pollen and there's dozen hives over in an area that I used to have bees in a long time ago. Never had a pollen problem with them collecting pollen.
So all his
So-
hives requeen?
Those queens were fine. There was just
Oh, he just thought they left.
well, he went in every hive, all 12 hives, frame by frame, looking for queens. He found 6 of them. So he thought 6 of them had lost the queens because he couldn't find them. You know, and the populations were good in these bees. I mean, they still had that summer population that was, it was actually going down because what'll happen now, you know, as these bees finish the honey flow, these queens are going to quit without the resources and nectar stimulating them. They're going to stop laying. They'll lay some, but they're not going to do this spring buildup where she's laying as hard as she can go because, you know, a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, these queens started laying as hard as they could lay because they know this part of their natural cycle building up for the honey flow. But as the resources dwindle down and there's no nectar coming in to stimulate that queen, she's going to slow down her brooding. So, but the point I was going to say is make sure when you look at those frames, you know, you want to make sure they've got carbohydrates. You want to make sure there's pollen in there, and make sure your brood's healthy. Then you're good to go. Because if the bees around here have enough food, and you keep the mites under check, you'll be successful if you're beekeeping. Now, I'm not going to say that you'll never have a queen event, because there's a small percentage of bees that we lose to queen events. But most times, if they have enough food and they have the mites under control, you'll be successful. I appreciate it, folks. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Amazing, Mr. John.
Yeah. If you guys and anyone else, we have entrances facing each other. But typically, just say these are the 2 hives here, there's no other one. That's going to be your main pathways. So you could approach the side or the back. So in this case, we can do that. So you're going to kind of right. Oh, okay. And then lift up. Okay. Nice. And yeah, you might have to use it. There you go.
Gonna do all 4 or
Whatever you need to you can do that corner, and maybe if you can reach over to the opposite corner just to break that seal. And it's kind of a feeling thing because like I haven't been in the size anymore than you have, so like I don't know. Sometimes you can do one corner and the whole thing pops off. Sometimes it, so you can if you need to. Like, there you go. And that, yeah. So we have a lot of honey in here. Kind of that same premise, so I would take this part and kind of push it here, do the same on that side, and then you're going to do it like on one end. Sometimes it is a little harder, you have to kind of like wiggle it in there to get it lifted up. Okay.
You got to pick them up. I think you got to pick them up because when you sling it,
I'm going to have a plan for where you're going with things before you start taking things out of the hive, you know.
Okay.
So.
Do you ever check any of the other frames first, or do you start from one end and go over?
I typically, and it depends on what I'm doing. I try to keep the frames in the order that they're in. And there's a couple of reasons for that. This time of year when your queen's laying, she likes to lay from both the center of the frame out to the edges of the frame, but also from the center of the box out. And that's kind of how you'll see the bees move, whether they're drawing wax or laying eggs or whatever. Does anyone else, like seriously, if you want to take a piece of that honeycomb? So you can start wherever you want. I typically start at the end. Now say this was a newly installed nuke and there wasn't really anything on my end, I wouldn't worry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll get the hang of it. Let that up a little bit. Your first frame ever. So tell me what you're seeing.
Okay, so let's see. On this side, I see the capped honey. Yep. I see some, it looks like regular worker brew on the corners. Oh, wait. No, it's just honey. There's no baby.
Okay.
I could flip it out.
You can,
okay.
yeah. So that's usually how I do is like flip it by the ears, but like however you're comfortable.
Okay. This side, the color looks a lot different.
So it may be a different honey.
Oh.
But it's all
Honey.
all honey. You can see there.
She's gonna have 3 more times.
This is all got food.
Yes.
This is like a different form of honey instead of this one.
So how would you know it's a different form
Or
of
it could
honey?
be
Just by the color?
By the color. So
Okay.
like if you will do a honey contest usually like July or so in the club, and it's really cool. Like definitely come to that meeting if you can because it's really cool. All the submissions are from Pender County, and they all look
You're
different.
fine.
So it just depends on the source.
Okay.
Like blueberry honey is super light and clear. If you have like a buckwheat or something darker, it's like almost like dark brown.
Right.
Taste is different. So it's really just variation.
We get the purple down here.
No,
No,
that's
that's
west of us. Yeah.
This one is just I accidentally hit it or something.
Yeah, she's stuck in there.
She's gonna talk about everyone she kills for the
Oh
next
no.
2 weeks. Like honey, you can't worry about it.
She's probably already stuck.
So are
Yeah,
they still doing their thing like they would just be doing here? They just not, they don't realize that it's out or
Yeah,
don't care that it's out?
they don't really care.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. It'll just be easier to get that frame back on.
And how
Yeah.
how much honey do you know you should collect versus what you should leave them for the rest of the season?
So that's hard. I think. Do you remember what the actual number is? I want to say like 50 pounds or something.
I think it was
Yeah.
50 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's about
50
50
pounds.
pounds.
At least 50 pounds.
What's a typical frame that's full?
7.
7?
Yeah, and you'll feel, and that's why some people run mediums versus deeps. Do you guys, speaking of that, like, do you understand the difference between like medium frames and deep frames?
I remember somebody.
Yeah,
from
one was
class.
longer. I think was like
Yeah.
They don't have any.
one was small.
Yeah. So these are like 9 and 3s, and then the
Oh, they
mediums
do
are
over
6
there.
and 3s.
Okay.
So
Oh, that's right.
they
That's
got
extra
some
wide.
supers over there.
Okay, so it's basically just these are considered deep boxes, deep frames. You always want to make sure your frames and your box size match. I feel like, well, I got a lot
No,
from somebody,
I
from
feel
a
ya.
man that
I
passed
feel
away
ya.
a few years back, and it was a debacle. But none of the equipment matched.
Oh, no.
And I ended up not really being able to keep anything. And the bees were the meanest bees I've ever, I let them die because I couldn't. Everybody's like, requeen. I'm like, that was the time I tried to like get in there and like the whole back of my jacket was like, I mean, it looked like I rolled around in a thorn bush with stingers. And I was like, you know what? I don't know what to tell you guys. But you can, if you want to set that down, or
Against the side.
yeah, you can lean it against the side. They have, I usually lean mine on, I have like a cinder block, but that's fine, just don't cook it. They have little things
That's
you
what John was doing
can,
earlier. Smash.
Oh, like rested on.
yeah, rest it
that's the honey
on,
come out of
that
it.
are kind of handy.
Yeah, and it gives them,
Would
they'll
this be-
repurpose the
You just want to make sure, like, if you saw your queen on that, would you put it on the ground? Okay.
Lid back on, is that gonna,
So
it just makes
that,
it possible. Squish them all, is that what the issue is?
Yeah, you do it. You
yeah. And
Normally
you
I
don't want to
would
risk
take all the wax
damage
off
to the
top,
queen
so
herself, like her
any
getting
frame
lost or
before I
stepped
get her
on
in
or
my
anything like that.
lid back on.
So
And
What
we
is
don't
that?
have to
What was it?
analyze
Those beetles that come?
everything.
the small hive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't expect
just
to
gives
see
you a
any of
flatter
those. These are really
surface, and
strong
they'll
hives and they're
Go
in the
back in
sun.
when you
So,
take that.
but we
These are a little different because they get
Yeah,
cavity
these
on the top.
are definitely, I mean,
At the bottom with the bees is just where they kind of fall off, or is that them working their way up gradually? Or-
at the bottom of the frame
Yeah, at the
where
very
they
bottom.
work out,
Yeah.
it's just because they have space. They're going to build wherever they have space. If you give them space, they will
Build
build.
out.
They're like Dollar General in that way.
Car washes and things.
Yeah.
Can I hold it?
Yeah. You got,
That box will
you got the
probably
whole way, I'm gonna let it go.
I got it.
feel like a full.
Sticky fingers.
yeah.
It's not horrible.
Wow, that's
heavy,
really
right?
heavy. Wow.
That's so cool. Go
Put
ahead.
it
You,
back
do it. You
in?
got it now. Yeah, I don't want to I'll drop it.
Let me turn this way so I can see.
So you're just using the dimension to turn the slide back in without hurting everybody sliding off? Is that
Yeah.
the goal?
Yeah.
And you can always, if you have a little extra space, kind of push, so you have the most space where the frame is, and then even it out if you need to.
They'll move.
And he's got these feeders in here, so that makes it a little bit
That was fun.
different.
You need a picture.
Oh, yeah, do you want a picture?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're always on taking.
I'm always taking pictures of everybody. I'm just videos and pictures.
Are you okay?
I know that.
Yeah.
These are like so.
I've actually found that if I can get the first frame out, I like
Use the angle part to keep it low.
Yeah, and honestly, guys, getting that first frame out is the hardest. If you can get the first one out, you can get the rest of them out.
You're golden after that.
Yeah.
You want those?
It's heavy.
Yeah, if you grab like right inside in front
here?
of those little crooks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's heavy.
There you go. You got it. You got it.
Oh yeah, they'll fix it. Don't worry.
There you go.
I know.
It'll be fixed in like a minute.
That's awesome.
I'm sorry. I'm so I just got right into the bees and forgot about me. That's what wrong. I don't have my hands right. No.
Yeah, if you keep your hand kind of like.
This is so heavy.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But yeah, that's good. More practice. That's cool. Yeah.
Because they've just important is orientation, so you want to try to put the frames in
Same place it was.
back in how you took them out.
So is that,
Yeah,
is
okay.
that
Just
the,
set it down. Just set it down slow.
the dryer sheets? Or is
They're shop rags with oxalic acid. We could ask Frankie for verification, but
that's pretty neat with the shop rags.
yeah. I usually keep like an old like coffee can or something with a lid. You don't want to just throw your wax on the ground. If you don't want it, I'll gladly take it. But any of this stuff, like this has honey in it. But yeah, you can filter the wax down. There's a million different ways to do that, and you can use it for everything from coating. You can use frames with plastic foundation. You can put an extra wax coat on that to making candles and chapsticks. There's a million beeswax products, so that's something you can sell. But in the event that you had some kind of disease or something, you don't want to just like throw it on the ground because that could spread that. Yes. Yeah.
That's a good point. That's true.
I just put some like stuff I scraped off on the ground, and then like cats from the area came in and started messing with the bees.
Yeah. Apparently cats too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Do you have a problem with bears? No, I have a problem with cats.
yeah. You have questions from what you need.
Oh yeah, because that's definitely going to have some larvae.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's where you're going to get your most action is down there. They've filled this one with nothing but honey. Probably, yeah.
You want gloves?
No, I guess I just stick it.
Yeah.
I should have put it on.
As far as this has, like, you know the difference between like these medium and super bottom boards. Any questions for you guys on that?
So these are all mediums you said?
These are deep. And a medium will be like put up like and this equipment is a little bit different because, like I said earlier, it's the migratory covers versus the telescopic covers. Like most of us have the inner cover and then the telescopic cover on the outside. So you will see some differences there.
But it also depends on if you buy it or you make it, because everyone.
Yes. Yeah. If you come across homemade equipment,
Like
some of it's really good. Some of it's like, wait, was that?
It's not stupid if it works.
Right. Yeah. Good point.
We should probably order it. I do want
Oh yeah.
to get a good
So kind of the same thing on it.
Point at my lips so you can't see,
Right.
but like to the right.
Get rid of it later? Like a house
It's like a frame right there. You can leave it on the ground.
Time, how often would you open up the hive? Like once a month? Or?
So after the honey flow is over,
What are you going to do? Kill them off?
because I don't know at what point he put those on. Got a bee up your nose again?
No,
Again.
I was telling them the story
Oh.
about the bee up my nose. How you told me I probably should cover at least my face.
Yeah. I will go out in a tank top and shorts.
But
You
you need
will never see me without my face uncovered.
Yeah, that would be
Because
instant
I
alert for
can-
me. I can do no gloves, but I need a jacket
Right.
and a hood.
I can stop and put
can see, like,
gloves
the
on.
difference
I can stop and put my jacket on. If you open up the hive
And they're in your face.
and they're in your face, you
Yeah,
can be
there's some
like,
different colors too.
hold
one
on,
moment,
guys.
please.
I'll be back in a moment. And I've not had that happen a lot, but I have had it happen.
Even with my bill, half the time I wait till I'm back in the house because, like, I'm walking to the house and I hear buzzing. I'm like, where are you?
So Guy and Willard, what, a month or two ago, and helped him do a split. And we went all through all of his hives, did a split, did everything. That was when he got stung in the nose. I didn't get stung at all. I was wearing shorts and a tank top. We're done. We're like 200 yards away.
In the nick of
And then they got mad and stung me like 4 times in one spot. I was like,
They said, there she is. That's her.
like I'm walking to my car. I'm done
So
with
you
it.
want to
We
help
don't
me
have
do
any
a split in a
proof
week or
that
two?
there's a lane between right now.
One on my jacket, but
It's take it off.
Uh-huh.
They were like busted.
Yeah,
It's almost near the house.
You
told me.
So the good news about it is,
Well, I got stung. We'll see if I die.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got an anaphylactic shock.
Right.
There's a pins in my pocket if you need it.
but
So I felt better. Most of the time I'm by myself, but I usually will try to.
I've been doing it for 20 years. So I've gone out of, well, actually, this last week and a half, I've actually been doing a lot of tile work.
You should hear from me in, whatever.
so you actually know how to make like angle cuts and stuff like that. Where
I'm a
you
carpenter trade.
try to make
Yes.
angle cuts to like join wood. It's like, I mean, I can do flat, no problem.
I don't see any eggs anymore.
For a second, I don't feel.
No wood. So we don't do everything. We haven't seen like any signs of
Oh, no, I haven't.
yet.
That's right.
Yeah, but I've got to build a, I've got to post on the ground.
Yeah.
Most of it is on the ground, but I got to put a fence for a loose
And we're just framing the wood. And
So, and sometimes what happens is
It's actually just
called honey round.
Hey, you know what you're doing and everything
too. So if this was your hive, what would you
Oh, yeah,
I would add
I can build a house from the foundation up.
Just have it set it in.
you give them space. So anytime, and guys, I want you to hear this too. It's basically 75, 80% full. You're gonna add space, whatever that. It may be,
I can curse.
you know, if the
5
flow's on, adding a honey super. If it's a nuke that you just got, it's going to be adding another brood box for them to expand. So what you add might change a little bit, but just have the idea that they need some space. But somewhere around that 3/4, 80% full is where you want to be, because you don't want to give them too much. So if you got a nuke with, say it's 5 frames, but say only like 3 of them are really full, you wouldn't want to put them in with 2 deeps with all that empty space because it's way too much for them to fit. But you also don't want them to run out of space.
In this case, if we're adding another deep, would we want to add it in the middle?
I would add it on top. So, the bee.
On top, like,
So they'll
move
go
the honey
out.
up, put it on top, or put it on top of the honey?
No, I wouldn't put it on top of the honey. And this is kind of hard because I don't know what his.
Frankie said he fills them down at the bottom.
Yeah, because the bees like to work up.
Yeah, so if you feel low, they'll go back down low. And goes up.
I don't know, because this entire box, like this is what I would use as a brood box, but it's like chock full of honey. So in my house, and this is where, like how Frankie said, you'll get 4 different opinions in talking to the 4 of us. This is where that goes. I would have that be brood, and I would have had honey supers on the top for the honey.
Yeah.
That's how I would.
That's how we have deeps, and we have the set divider for the honey supers.
Can you use a deep box for honey? There's no reason why you can't.
So you spin it out.
Yeah. If you could have a way to extract it and everything.
So is the extractor
You can
smaller.
fit. It depends on what your
So
jack is.
I got Michelle one where you can fit 8 frames or of deeps or what is it?
I'll let you guys fight in here so you can
Yeah.
get into them.
No.
And it's electric.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, 'cause she was like, well, because she was like, she was like,
Yeah, so if you want to do
well, I got it
two
for
or
her because
like
she was
these
like,
5
well, I really
frames
want
between
one,
the two
and I
of
knew
you,
that if I got one that was a
and we'll just kind of see
manual,
what
I'd be the
we
one
see.
cranking it. So I got I paid the extra $60 for an electric.
We haven't gotten that far, but guess what? He's gonna have to learn how to be smart too.
You got a weight grinder, we're good.
and see the difference in getting
Yeah, I
frame
noticed
set.
that. That was
compared to the
really,
And that's what, like, I genuinely
Sat over here in the
think
back waiting everybody else.
yeah. If you can get that first frame out,
90,
you're great.
like old
Yeah.
school saw and attach it to your drill bit and just make yourself your own. There you go.
Yeah,
That'll work.
And this is the point of this
Actually,
is
it works
to
really well.
Better clean that
Might
up.
actually work a little too
Oh,
well.
wait, we didn't have him.
Might want to be
save
careful.
that motor,
Yeah,
though.
I want to be careful with that one.
We didn't have him save that motor though.
it's always different when somebody's watching you too. You know, always only
Oh, let me go bring it.
everybody's watching. So
This is super light compared to it, so it obviously doesn't have much honey. Or at least so there's honey in it.
Drying machine, washing machine,
Not capped yet.
ruined from water
Looks like a
damage.
lot of empty,
Those look at doing
not much
a
in them.
plugger with
So the
And this is this pollen sticking out? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, the bottom part right side is mostly the pollen.
Nice.
So this is capped through here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Capri, that's what it's all in the other one. This is honey.
That's honey.
Yep.
And then you have nectar.
how to do double.
okay, let me check. See,
And you just flip it up like this after 3?
I just flipped the ears. Yeah, by the ears.
Well, I want to skin on so that it helps keep the fat in when you cook them.
So you got more honey on the bottom right, and it looks like on the top it's starting to be honey, correct? Oh, wait, what's
Yeah,
that honey in the
hey.
middle?
For 1 second.
That's
But that
Like
tasted
the middle thing
delicious.
right there was sticking out. What is that?
So they should make
But
it
we also, the amount of meat I put into that duck
This
to get
stuff
him to that
is
2 meals we ate off
the
of
bee
him.
brood. It's like pollen mixed with
Well, to be fair, we weren't planning on eating it, but they
Yeah.
would be an asshole.
see the different colors there. What's
And
this
Angel
guy
Wing.
right there?
He's kind of useless.
That's the drum, right?
Yep.
That's my favorite.
And so that thing in the middle you think could be a...
Yeah, so sometimes they'll start.
I was like, okay, grab the machete.
I'm trying to think if there's any
Yeah.
Right here.
I mean,
just to see. I got it.
You got it?
That's a quick way to go to freezer camp.
supposedly
attack me,
you can
wrong.
use wax, paraffin wax in the water. And it'll help plug
There
it.
are
Really?
Yeah.
few
Okay.
I gotta figure out how to do that. If I'm gonna do a bunch of ducks like I'm planning on and selling them, then
And they only
I gotta
take how long
figure
to hatch
a better way, because like she said, it takes about an hour.
I wonder if you could get like a like
So you know the
kind of
queen
like
at
a
least has been there
washing
within
machine,
21 days.
Brain
and
freeze.
like,
I'm like,
but like
I know, because I
on,
literally
like, a
see
bunch of,
an
like,
egg like
rounded,
in
like,
that cell
something or another,
right
like.
there. And you can hold it however you feel comfortable
That's essentially what
holding
it
it.
is. It's just a dryer.
To see in that
Yeah,
area,
big, right?
but it's a little tiny white speck,
Basically,
and you
yeah.
kind of saw I had like my face in it.
Where's the something
How
behind
many
me?
can you put in at one? Is
yeah.
it one
Oh,
at
yeah.
a time, or you put like two size?
Mine I can put
I'm thinking I've seen a sheen of honey maybe.
Yeah, so it's not tiny. It's like a tiny grain of rice, but like
and sometimes
not as big of a grain of rice.
Yeah.
next or when you
The
might
shape.
get busted.
It's hard to see.
Well, I said like it's a red meat.
So
I'm
you probably appreciate
all the
this.
rest of the crap.
An egg is an egg for 3 days.
South America.
You have a little sheen to it, like shiny.
Basically, it's different. They're
As you can see a little teeny
the best way.
caterpillar
Best way
larvae.
I can
That one back because you have
into one.
the frame, you know, the space to move.
Yeah.
And I would go
Why they will always be cannibals after that.
Basically, it's knowing the components of the hive, knowing the difference between like the queen, the drone, the worker.
According to my brother, there's a bunch of
And
bodies
then-
out there somewhere.
Yeah,
that nobody's
and I
found
would
yet.
hold that over the hive for a minute just to make sure.
We got some danglers.
We have some danglers, but we want to make sure. So I see brood on
Yeah,
here, so we want to make sure we don't
If
have a
if
queen
I
on
had
here.
to, yeah,
Oh, I 100% would eat something.
yeah. If I had to,
I have no issue with it.
Yeah.
the guy with his
Like if we're like
Super
stranded,
deep
like
in there,
plane
all
crash
walking around
stranded in the
and
mountains or whatnot, I guess, but the fattest person.
We're never going on a long boat ride with that guy.
Oh, yeah, so we could be cleaning the cell.
biggest person,
Like,
most
and he's
secret
feeding
person.
things like
Yeah,
this,
that's
like that.
tasty.
So he's
You're a
probably.
drain on the resources. Guess what? You're not
So
a
that's all
resource.
bee
Look,
bread
I'll give you
there with the
27
pollen
seconds to
and
heal
nectar
up
mix.
quick.
And yeah, let's see.
Yeah.
This side, I
Clean that
don't see
honey
it
up.
clean,
Yeah,
but
there you go.
We'll see, but then like, so do you know what the?
I should have known that this combination. I was worried about him and him. I forgot about you.
You didn't realize Max was gonna
You mean the marine that's been and seen some fucked up
Sometimes,
someone put diesel
and this is
fuel
kind of
on
an
the
important
child.
distinction.
Fire like
If
that
you
has
have a
a
new
smell when
queen,
it gets down to the marrow.
sometimes she doesn't
You never
lay
forget that smell.
perfectly in the very beginning. So you might see like a couple eggs per cell, or see like some
And yes, that
skip.
unfortunately
That
happens
could be
more
just a
than-
new queen.
More than I'd like to
A laying
count.
worker, they'll be
Hopefully not by us.
like cells full of eggs. Like it's
Oh,
really,
it's like
you
double
could look
eggs.
at it and be like, what is going on here? If you ever see
Cows
like,
lose the war, but
like-
most of the time
like
it
a
was
frame,
Taliban.
because she'll lay like a queen does, like prolifically, but it will be like the whole frame is just filled with like, yeah, they can lay drone cells, but a lot of times they'll lay like many eggs per cell. So you'll see, and some of the stuff when
it blows up.
when I was in nursing
Goes
school,
in
the
the
very
Yeah.
well,
Yeah. Have you seen
the
one?
very best piece of advice.
I got you.
Yeah,
The
our,
very best piece of
I've seen
advice I got
videos,
was that you didn't have to know everything that could be wrong. You just had to
mine
know
was,
what
I was
normal.
counter IED and
So if you saw whatever and
Stay away
it
from
seemed
this guy.
abnormal, you didn't
I
have to
statistic,
understand what was
Marine
going
Corps
on.
Common Engineers
That was like your cue to be like, hey, you know, I see this in Kyle, his pocket's flipped up, you know, what do you think of this? To someone else. So it, and I feel like that applies to beekeeping,
I got two.
especially in beekeeping.
So we
You're not
we
gonna
carry
know
30 pounds of C4 on top of the regular
But
battle rattle.
if you know what's kind of normal,
So
there's some
I have like
right there.
different shape charges because we're breachers as well.
If you
So
know
we're the
what's
first through a
normal,
door, we're the
what's
first in a
not,
patrol,
as
so
far
we're
as
the first to get
eggs
shot
go.
regardless if we're on patrol or in a door. We get blown up because we're also what we call finger fucking. Literally go up to an IED and you take your K bar and you dig it out of the ground.
Like
Like,
I
yep,
heard
there's
the
a bomb.
phrase "blown up,"
Without the
and
bomb.
instantly, yeah.
Maybe I need
That's
my
why I always
glasses.
kept,
Will I
I
see
had a grenade
larva?
pouch right here.
Is that-
I always kept
or is that
my blasting caps
right there in the middle?
So this is all eggs, guys.
Yeah, eggs. This one.
So you might.
So I see the larva and
Can
I
you turn it
see.
towards me a little?
So I'm sorry.
That's okay. Lots of eggs.
Yeah, I see lots of eggs.
And little larvae.
Yeah.
Little larvae. Yeah.
That's why I always made sure whenever I inspected, I always was like directly over it. So that way it-
Good job.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's make sure.
You might be.
you have to have that kind of
So let
mentality.
me turn this
So-
over to
Or
see
you
if
end
we
up
see
missing
her.
stuff.
Because there's a lot of eggs.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the queen will be just like running.
I got thrown.
I do not see her.
Get
away from me. Get away. You'll also often see a lot of the bees attending to her. So you might see like a circle of bees all like facing in towards something.
If you
Sometimes
want, I can teach you how to make a.
I don't see her.
No.
I don't see her either. So
I should probably tell you no too, just because.
So I see the honey.
Yeah.
This is
She's like Max. Why? She's like Max.
Yeah,
stop,
so
really.
there's that's nectar, that glistening
Yeah.
stuff, and then the.
I mean, you got enough chicken and whatnot. I can make freaking.
So I see the drone right there in. Well,
You're military,
He's trying to
weren't
hide.
I can't hold it.
Oh, you
If
weren't?
something happens
I
in
see
Curry,
crawling on the legs right there. That bee.
if something happens in Curry, we know.
Oh, well, that's it. All right, but yeah, me and you can be fine. Be fine.
Like I told you.
I can make them. You make sure I don't mess it up.
What's the workers?
Where you at in Curry?
Richard Switch.
What else do I see?
What the I don't even know. I'm not gonna try to say that.
Richard Switch.
Okay.
2 words.
I heard something else.
Richard Switch.
That could be dangerous. You speak too fast. I'm not the words. I think you said.
The pollen. Right?
Who is it that owns the rodeo on your road?
Where's the nectar?
Mr. Lewis.
I
But
think
they
that's it.
moved from him down to the very end of Richard Switch and 421
I'm sorry, I
Mexico.
meant
Yeah.
to hold it to her.
Yeah.
Right
So-
there. See that right there?
That's the tire.
Oh,
guy, I
that's
think.
okay.
And these are all
I
eggs.
think-
And those
Not-
are all
not
eggs.
Larry.
You're saying
Yeah.
eggs, you're
No,
saying
not
larvae.
Larry.
Yeah.
Lakes.
No, next
So
to
the
Mo's,
larva
the one
starts
down
around
from
here.
Mo's.
Oh,
You
I
can
know what
see
you're
they're
talking about.
really
Yeah,
tiny.
across from the.
So when you're done
Yeah.
having, just pass
Across
that
from
to
the
them so they
beekeeper
can
or
all
whatever
go.
it is.
Because that's a really good.
Because the last time he was in talking about
Do you want to? Did you see it right here?
Oh,
See the
yeah,
egg
this is
larvae?
Curry. And I was like,
That's where it's at then.
I was like, yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, the eggs are hard to see.
I got a Hispanic
Yeah,
kid that
there's a whole bunch, and then yeah, the larvae, and they're tiny larvae, so like they're just turning.
Is it really mean that I'm just like, whenever they're doing like a big rodeo, it'd be like, that'd be a great place for ice to show up.
Yeah, that is what
Yeah.
That's why it's smoker.
Because unfortunately, I'm in an industry where I've seen firsthand throughout the years where I cannot get Americans to.
Oh, me too. I'm in
come
construction.
and work.
You can't, if you, without a legal labor, there's no way we'd even have a construction industry in Wilmington.
Technically,
But also there's no
I don't know that they're illegal.
like
Their paperwork passed to us by looking at it.
other
They
people
were
don't
good.
want to do friends.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they don't break the law and they come and think. I will agree.
But that's what I'm saying.
Well,
The
no,
visa process for
Yeah,
that
and
should be
trash.
much-
It needs to be much easier. I
much
agree.
easier.
I have a buddy who literally he was
The whole demeanor.
It's not like these people, they want to stay here. They're making money for their families and they want to go back
Oh no,
home.
I 100% like it's ridiculous that to get a citizenship takes you 10 years. After it takes you 5 years to
So
get
I
it.
see the
I completely
Is the
agree.
Undertaker's right here hauling this guy away?
Oh yeah. But I had a buddy who I served in the Marine Corps
Hauling
with,
a dead
and
one
his
away.
family
They'll clean
was
it.
his parents were illegal.
No, I mean they'll clean out and like you'll see like I mean if we move the grass there'll be probably a bunch of dead ones out there.
Oh, I
They're
see
just
a
clean
queen
out.
So they just know that they're done. I
queen
mean, I guess if you're halfway sleeping, you better watch out.
Only that, like,
cups being
1,000%
developed.
fine, like, of all
Yeah,
of
they're
them.
right. There's one doing, a couple of them
They
doing.
said,
I almost looks like they're
don't
fighting
like
each other too a little bit.
I don't know if it's
The two over here that
I don't know if it's
are fighting, that are killing each other.
What do you think that?
So that's
It
all
might
the
be
bee
somebody
bread.
ran over wrong.
Oh,
There's
okay.
some cool bee bread in this one too, guys.
It doesn't have the smell.
Zero too. Like the different color bee bread. See all the different
big
colors.
issue I have
So that's all the different pollen sources being represented there. That's awesome.
the number one cause of
They call these the color. So the bee bread is basically like the pollen and the nectar and enzymes like all mixed together as a
States that have tried to do creative things
And
like
so what is so that right there that you got your hands on?
This is probably part of another frame that got stuck together.
Like the cap honey from the one next
Yeah,
to it.
yeah, it just got stuck to it.
That's just a different pollen source.
Oh, where do you?
Wow, that's really building up over here.
Yeah, what is that? That's not a.
Oh, that's a queen cell up there.
Maybe they are making it.
I think it's just coming out.
That's not
It's not.
How tall are they?
Oh, it's building out the cone.
Should we
I
knock
think he
that
has
off
one.
stuff?
What's that?
When they have the weird ends like that, should you knock those off?
Yeah, I usually do. Do you know where you got yours?
Amazon.
Probably Amazon.
See pollen.
I
I
bought
didn't
a lot of stuff. Like I bought
white
her
pollen
hive
at that.
on
You want to hold it?
I like it. That's my jacket. That's yours.
I don't know.
What's your frame back?
That I got from Mail.
Yeah.
The ventilated
First hive I
jacket.
got you. What brand is that? Do you remember? Not Bee Castle. What is it?
Careful, maybe on your finger.
Is it Bee Castle? Okay, yeah.
I also have a
You
maybe.
okay with them on your finger?
Yeah.
Are the two I have? It's called Maybe Bees and
Which one do you like better? The maybe
They're
bee?
Oh yeah, I see the bread.
I gotta wait till somebody else wants to-
Questions?
I don't have any questions.
Telescoping top is actually
Not that I don't. I can't think of any questions. I do have a question about this syrup thing right here.
Okay.
Right, so does he keep that in there all the time, or is it just, I mean, just as storage?
I would expect that he had this in there when this was split.
Okay, pull back the other side.
And he was
He said he keeps feeders on all the time, even if they're empty, just because he has so many hives that it's
Okay.
Yeah,
difficult
that
to
does
take
go
them
on
out.
the other.
Yeah,
I asked that.
Yeah.
yeah, because he's not feeding
Because
them
it's too
now.
much to take out, or, okay.
Just because he has
too many
so many
hives.
hives.
Yeah.
In our
Oh, yeah.
situations, we would
Yes,
just
I have 3 hives. It's a little different.
yeah.
everything else.
So you're basically running
I mean, you could easily fix it.
Yeah,
Just
because of
a
the
lid.
Oh yeah.
Just
that's like a
literally
double
get
feeder.
some
Mine
freaking,
only works with one frame.
honestly, get some freaking
Yeah.
honey. Put some
You know,
honey
with
in
the
crack, get some
feeders,
crack,
there's
snip it,
different
let it
options.
itself up, and
The
then
downside of these feeders is that
No way.
there you go. Or
to them
wood,
to
yeah,
fill
that
them,
works too.
you can't.
It wasn't. It was just slightly
How much
split enough,
I
missing a piece.
personally like
That's
the
the bottom
higher
bar?
As long as you can wood glue it and get it back
it's
tight,
like
missing
this.
a piece ain't gonna.
Well, no, they're 3 gallon
Oh,
ones.
you mean the rise?
Wax over it.
Yeah, so it's shaped like
Well,
this,
since
but
I've just
not
paid
quite
for it, I was
as
gonna-
Yeah.
deep. But it sits
I
on
like
the
the
top.
quality of
It
the
holds
Bee
3
Castle. The
gallons.
quality is
But
really nice.
then the only thing
Yeah, that is nice that it was cedar, not pine or anything.
like your covers off. Just
You
you don't have to actually go in the frame.
But then
you can make a.
you're talking about these right
You
here.
weren't gonna use pine, would you?
Yes, but I usually just use the
Yeah, that's the cedar was nice. I like cedar for one, just the aesthetic, and two,
And Frankie showed
just
me
the
a
fact that
way.
it
He's
just
like, you
holds
take the lid off.
so much longer. Because it's not a softwood like
Oh, okay. The opposite end of the year, when it's getting colder, they will cluster. You don't want to disturb that cluster. So I just feel like it's good habit.
So you would move all
So
these
I would
slowly and put that one back in the
exactly.
I mean, cheapest would be to make
if you want to do that.
The other one just gonna have to be.
but you gotta.
If you want, you can smoke your hands. That helps, and you can use the.
It's easier to just
Alright, so you're gonna go hard.
Like
Do you like the alcohol option?
These are shop rags. And we can ask Frankie, my guess, and it's a guess. Hey, I didn't get to see you guys yet. I don't. The thing about doing this is I don't know anything about beehives any more than anyone else standing here. These are bees. These are bees. My guess would be that these are wash and see
how many more you get.
Okay.
Because the sugar roll will give you an idea, but it's not as effective as the
Gotcha.
alcohol wash.
Okay.
So hypothetically, we have alcohol in here, just regular isopropyl alcohol. You'll take half a cup of these, and you want to get those frames that we saw with the brood on. And you can kind of give it a little shake. John was saying he likes to shake them off into a basin because the forage bees will fly away, but the nurse bees will stay in the basin.
And that's where you really want to test anyway.
Yeah, you want to really test the nurse bees. But you can kind of just slide this down, like, say this is a frame of bees, if you slide it down, like, don't push it into X, but if you just slide it down, they'll fall into the cup. If you do it that way, there's a bunch of different ways, lots of YouTube videos. And so basically you're going to get half a cup of bees, you're going to put them in here, and put the...
Cup it a couple times.
So we've got our alcohol, we've got our half a cup of bees, and these. There we go. These you don't want to. You're gonna have alcohol everywhere. Don't do it over your hive because you don't want. Like if alcohol spills, you don't want to do it.
Stuff away.
But just step away.
We have a tree,
and you're just gonna kind of take it like this. And you can let it sit for a couple minutes. And what will happen is the alcohol will dislodge the mites that are on the bees. And the mites will fall through the openings in the strainer bucket, but the bees will stay in there. So you can, hold it up and see what kind of mites you have. So anything over like 3. So if you do the half cup of bees, that will give you a percentage for each mite you have. So if you got 3 mites at the bottom of your count, you're at like 3%. And that's it. So it's pretty easy to do. The sugar roll, you can kind of do the same thing. If you do a sugar roll, you're gonna have to like shake.
Is it just for like varroa?
It's just for
So like tracheal mites and other ones won't fall off during the summer?
We can actually scrape
and varroa is our
push it
biggest
straight down. Or see if we can scoop it up.
What kind of slope should you have on your?
At least a low degree so that water can.
That's right.
Was it a certain degree, like 5 degrees or something, or just a slight tilt? Special.
1 degree. 1 degree. I mean, well, I'm just going to tell you this. 1 degree of angle per inch is 16 thousandths, because I know that from working on aircraft engine parts and stuff like that. I did a tremendous amount of inspection work. But anyway, so 5 or 6 degrees. What I do on my bottom boards, you can set that down. If you've done that, I'll have like a piece of 2x4 or 2x6 in the back, and then I have a piece of either 1x or 5/4 decking on the front. So that gives you your 5 or 6 degrees of kill. That's good enough right there.
Okay.
You looked at your food stores. You saw what the food stores look like.
Different colors from all the
Depends on
different
the nectar.
I don't think what else. You know how to combine, and you probably haven't done it, but you know how to combine a hive. Say you have one hive of bees that's weak, and you're getting ready to, and you can't get another queen. You know how to combine a hive of bees?
No.
Did you ever talk about that?
No. That'd be good to know.
Okay, well, proper way, and I do it sometimes I don't, but I mean, if you have, say you've got your queen here and you've got a single box here, you've got another box over here, you just have
Oh, is it the candy?
queenless. Newspaper method, use the newspaper.
Okay.
What you'll do is take a piece of newspaper and lay it on top of that hive where the queen is, and then you'll take that other box with that hive of bees that's queenless, you set it on top of it, and they will chew through the paper. So it'll take them a couple of days. You know, you'll see it. Sometimes some people take their hive tool and cut a couple of slits, and they'll do that just to speed up the process. But I just, especially on a windy day, I just try to keep the newspaper in place.
Okay.
So I put the newspaper on there and then set the other box on top of it, and they'll chew through there, and the pheromones will, the queens will meet and breed.
And that's the reason for the pheromone, to keep them happy while they're getting adjusted, right?
Queen knows where it is, just like in catching a swarm. If there's a swarm on the tree.
Listen, I'm only the
you
instrument of
got
chaos.
that
I don't
swarm
control
of
it.
bees, if you looked at the front of, and once you dumped them in the box, you could look at the front of the box at the entrance, and you'll see the bees. They'll have their butts up in the air. They'll be fanning, and they're fanning the queen's pheromones. So she's in here. And a lot of times I'll lay a sheet down or something, depending on what I'm doing, but you'll see the bees start marching in.
Yeah.
They just line up, march right on in.
That's crazy.
How big do you put the newspaper? You just kind of.
Just one sheet.
One sheet. Okay.
That's it. That's all you need.
Oh, wow.
Another way, if you wanted to do it and didn't have it, if you had a spray bottle of sugar water, you could probably smoke it. You could smoke them. Spray a little sugar water on both of them. Put them together. And be done with it. Identified hive component.
Yeah, we did. She was pointing them all out.
So I was sent over here to light the smoker.
You want to light the smoker?
I do.
I'm gonna go get my smoker that I left over there.
Oh, yeah. So that's in there. Should I dump that out or leave it in there?
You can dump it out.
Okay.
You got one of those here? Yeah, she's already
You've actually
studied.
got a different bug on you, so I don't know if that's what you.
I don't know.
There's a honeybee in your hair.
Yeah.
She's on your hair.
Bee yard, you're like,
Yeah, we're getting to the first fly season.
Let me get that one out of your face. I thought I was going to have to go back over there. I'm going to steal some of Frankie's straw over there so I can fill my bucket back up.
Yeah.
You don't want.
Apparently.
And that feels pretty good. You're not too tight, but start. Start like you hold.
Yeah, this I love this.
I remember you saying that.
Okay, you're good.
It's nice.
Yeah.
This way. Yeah.
And then I'm gonna lean it
This way. I try to tilt it over.
This I think yeah, this is
It's the hole at the bottom.
the got one too, like the ventilated material.
Oh, that hole to the bottom. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
It could have been worse, I guess, right?
You can use that one. This one I think has the kind of like a butane light and all, so you just grab it. Yeah, you hear it go toward it? Yeah. All right, you got it? Now start puffing it. Start working the bellows. You just keep working them. And what I do, and you just keep, you want a rip roaring fire. That's what I tell people. I said, get you a rip roaring fire.
I think that's rip roaring.
And that's, I mean, it'll be in your face. It's coming up in your face. So what you do, keep doing it like that. I'm going to fix you a ball. I'm going to help you out. So I'll try to fix it out. Like I said, I'm getting towards the bottom, but keep it going like that. And then just, you just
Slow it down.
take that. Just take that. Now
Stick it in
stick it right on top of it.
Okay.
Push it in.
Push it in.
All right, now just puff it some.
Oh wow, that's cool. Oh
And
wow.
then if you want to take your hive tool and roll it, kind of lean it over, or you can take. I mean, I just use my fingers. Of course, the rim's going to be hot. I mean, you see, I'm sticking my fingers in there so it's not too hot. All right, just close up your smoke. All right, now feel that smoke. Is it hot smoke or is it cool? Can you?
It's hot. Wait a minute. Hot, cool.
That's good enough. That's not too hot. It's
No, it's not hot. It's
not
warm.
too hot because you're not going to put it right down on the bees. You're going to hold it, you know, and just
a little bit.
4 or 5 puffs. I mean, you just take it and, you know, 4 or 5 puffs in there because too much smoke is going to irritate them. So, you know, just like that.
Yeah,
So that's good.
that's cool.
Now just see how long it's, let it burn and let it burn itself out. That's what I'm going to do with mine now. I'm just going to let it burn itself out.
Thank you. Look this way. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. I did sign in. How are you?
All right, how you doing today?
Good.
I'm a Carolina burger connoisseur.
Everybody look this way. This way. 1, 2. You gonna get in? 1, 2, 3. Okay, look this way. 1, 2. Taking a video.
This time we're going to ask Greg to give thanks and then have at the food. What do you think?
Yep, that'll work.
All right, Greg, turn it over to you.
Let's pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, I humble myself before you this day. It's a beautiful day. I'm so grateful to you for who you are and what you've done for me, Lord God, for each and every one of us. Lord, I pray and ask that you bless this time together, a sweet fellowship. Lord, that you bless this meal to the nourishment of our bodies and bless our bodies to be of service to your kingdom. Lord, that we give you honor, praise, and glory for all things, for all the greatness that you've done and what you so greatly deserve. In Christ Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Vinegar of your choice, apple cider, whatever. 3/4 cups of sugar, 1 tablespoon of dried mustard with 1 can of tomato soup. Mix, dissolve the sugar, pour it over your carrots.
Thank you for that. Guys, let me show you, in case I put it on YouTube. Guys, let me show you what it looks like. These are some awesome carrots. This is a very good way to do carrots. So I had to ask her about her recipe because it was awesome.
Pepper and onions.
Pepper and onions.
Slice thin.
Wow. I'm going to reach down in and grab one. Mm-hmm.
And a salad shooter to get it thin, but you can slice your own to the thickness.
Wow, they're good.
People
Awesome.
that don't like carrots love this recipe.
I like this. Thank you.
Soup.
Say that again.
Add tomato soup.
Add tomato soup. Anything else?
To the sugar and vinegar and mustard mixture.
and dissolve the sugar together with the soup. It's soup.
You might have, but we're going to check it. If
Okay.
not, then we'll add this to it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, appreciate it.